Hi, I'm Liz Naumovski, host of Finance is Personal. The line in marriage vows, till death do us part, isn't always the way it works out. Divorce rates and common law breakups have been on the rise, and the reasons for ending a marriage have been issues with communication, money, as well as infidelity. And there's also financial infidelity when you're surprised with an enormous debt load that you didn't even create. However, with the growing number of Canadians experiencing the emotional toll of divorce or a common law split, many are wondering, what is the financial cost of all of this? And remember, you need more than just a lawyer. To help us understand the finance of divorce or a common law split, I'm joined by Jackie Porter, an award-winning financial planner and co-author of Single by Choice or Chance. Jackie was named a 2017 finalist in Wealth Professional's Women of Influence Award, and she's a leading expert in money and women and money and a strong voice in women's financial empowerment. Jackie, this is such an important topic because everywhere I look, I either have girlfriends going through a divorce or they've just broken up with their common law partner. And there are a lot of things that women should think about. What is the first thing that they need to think about when they are in this experience?
Well, I think the first thing they should be thinking about is, can I afford to divorce? There is such an adage called, it's cheaper to keep him or her, right? And often I've heard, even in my own practice, of people staying together simply because of finances, because they don't know if they can afford to make it on their own.
Because it's a lifestyle change.
It's a huge lifestyle change. And the truth is, one of the reasons that getting a divorce is more traumatic than even losing a partner is it affects everything. It affects your social connections. It affects where you potentially will live. And then there's that ongoing negotiation around money with that partner, dealing with the children, splitting time with the children. So it's just every aspect of your life is touched.
So let's go through.
So it's like losing your identity.
Well, I guess it would be, because if you've always been Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, I think women going through a divorce is almost like a man who has been fired from a very high position because he's known as President CEO of this, and that is his identity.
Exactly. So it's, who am I now? And how am I going to navigate this new reality? And you know, especially for people, I mean, something seems to happen in the mid-40s for women. As you can see, my book, Single by Choice or Chance, is about women over the age of 45,
right,
where we might have changed as a person over that time period and not have the same needs. People, as you said, leave for all kinds of reasons. And it could just be we're in a different stage in our lives, and what we wanted when we got married in our 20s is very different now that we're in our 40s. But then the fear around money and not understanding money holds a lot of us back.
Every show I do is I mean, the conversations around the fear of money. There's always this fear of money. So let's go back and let's look at how to face the transition with confidence.
Okay.
And first of all, there's grief. You have to deal with the grief.
100%. I mean, it's like I said, it's like the death. It's like a death. Because it's the death of your identity in many, many ways, and losing your friends, because who will they go with? Will they be on team, you, or on your partner's team? And how do you navigate that? How do you navigate who your children will choose depending on what their ages are, and even telling them? And as I said, for a lot of people, they're really attached to where they live. How do you navigate finding a new place to live and figuring out if you can afford to continue to live in your home, if that's something you choose? If you're a spouse who worked, there might be different options than if you're a spouse who never worked.
And that's something that I want to talk about. Yes, so there are a lot of women that have sacrificed their careers and have decided to stay at home with their children, and all of a sudden they're faced with a divorce. They haven't upgraded any of their skills. They haven't been in the workforce.
Correct.
How does that work?
Well, I mean, they'd be entitled to spousal support, and if they have children, child support. But let's face it, Elizabeth, we do a lot of unpaid work.
We do.
And truly, because we do a lot of unpaid work, no one puts a value on keeping the house clean and taking the kids to soccer practice and, just really making sure home life is organized for whoever the breadwinner might be. We're assuming it's a woman in this case, but it could be, these days things are changing.
Right.
But we don't really place a value value on that. And so for a lot of women, they're sheepish in claiming what their value is.
Okay, so let's help them out then.
Okay.
So somebody is being, all of a sudden they are going through a divorce. What type of paperwork, what type of financial papers do they need to gather to give them a head start and prepare themselves?
So they need to actually create quite a few financial statements. Often people don't know it, but they need a family net worth statement. So a family net worth statement is all that you own versus all that you owe.
Including homes, cars.
Cars exactly, but really the assets, the growing assets. So if your spouse has RSPs, pensions locked in, or like a government pension, what's the entitlement going to be? So if it's a government pension, in that case, if it's a guaranteed pension, you'd have to get a actuary to calculate the value of the pension, or if it's just a fixed amount, like a savings amount, then that might have to be split. So we just have to know what the values are of all of the assets. If there's a cottage, a family cottage, is it someone who owns a business? Are they incorporated? Do they have corporate assets? You really need to make sure you have all of the data, the financial data about what you own, and also how much debt is your family in.
Right.
Do you have, and do you know?
A lot of people are surprised by the debt.
Yes.
I have some girlfriends that have been going through something and have been shocked by the amount of debt that the household has had because they co-signed, they didn't know.
Correct.
And the debt just kept growing and growing.
100%. I had a client who found out that their husband had put them in quite a bit of debt. At the time that they actually had separated with their partner and they wanted a divorce, they came to realize that their husband had a horrible gambling habit.
Wow.
They started to get letters at home from the bank saying that final notice letters about paying the mortgage payments. And that was when she started to take a closer look. She started to have panic attacks and start to take a closer look at the finances. It was after her husband had moved out, and she started to get all these letters, and she started to realize things were not as they should be.
And that's why you had actually said that going through a divorce is much harder than dealing with the grief of a death of a loved one, because all of a sudden all these things are coming back to haunt you. But we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Jackie and I'll be back after the break to discuss more on the finance of divorce and how to better inform yourself. Hi, welcome back to Finances Personal. I'm Liz Naumovski, and today we're discussing the finance of divorce, or a woman's financial empowerment. Jackie Porter is a financial planner and co-author of Single by Choice or Chance. So Jackie, we were talking about empowering yourself with knowledge. And you were saying during the break, we were talking about know the numbers. Numbers, the math, do the math, numbers are really important.
100%. Women tend to want to avoid financial confrontation at all costs. And again, especially the women who never worked outside of the home, don't value. There's a value to all the things that women do that are unpaid for. And without you knowing what the numbers are, there's no way that you can properly equalize what you deserve from the marriage. So you definitely need to know what the family's assets are, which is what does your family own and what does your family owe. And if you don't know what those financial documents look like, you need to hire someone like a financial organizer who can help you put all of those documents together to prepare a proper financial statement for a financial planner and for a lawyer. And
that's just it. A lot of people think they're getting a divorce and they just need a lawyer.
No.
But I think you need a lot more than just a lawyer. And you can't use your lawyer as a therapist.
No, you definitely need a community. It really does take a team. It might take a financial organizer. It might take an accountant to figure out tax implications of splitting certain assets like your pension plans. You will definitely need to talk to a therapist for all of the grief that is just common with divorce, and a financial planner to help you do the math once you actually have the financial statement.
And there's so many people that say, you know what, I've lived in this house forever. I am not giving up my home. But sometimes that's not such a good thing for people.
You really need to do the math if it's worth it for you to stay in the home. And you need to figure out first of all, your own financial statement. What's your budget? Are you someone who worked outside of the home? Do you have an income stream to support living in the house on top of getting potentially child support? Or are you someone who was the homemaker and your only source of income is what you'll get from dividing the family assets? You need to do the math so that you can see what's feasible. Is it feasible to stay in a home where, you know, if your kids are a certain age and at a certain life stage that you won't be able to afford? It's always nice to keep the house, and it's, you know, lots of people are very sentimental about where they live, so am I get that. But at the end of the day, it's about having long-term peace of mind.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, you're going through something that is sentimental and extremely emotional. And when those emotions start running wild, you become very vulnerable as well. And so what you said, you know, surround yourself with a good team. That's very, very important.
Absolutely. In fact, I would probably say that for people in the initial stages, it's very difficult to negotiate properly if you're emotionally. So you definitely need to be speaking with a therapist to work through all of your emotional feelings, because you might, in that situation, even when you do the math, you might negotiate away what you deserve, and a few years later, when you're living the financial reality of your decisions, you might regret it. So you don't want to make decisions about what you want to do when you're still very emotional.
And you know what I think is really important too, whether you're getting a divorce or not, I think it's very important for women especially to have emergency funds.
Absolutely. So going back to when you're still at home, in your home, figuring out how you're going to pay for things. Do a budget. What's coming in? How much would you have coming in right now? Do you have income? Are you in debt? Do you have any credit cards? And also, if you are a homemaker, incredibly important to create a financial identity for yourself outside of the marriage.
Right.
Do you have any credit cards outside of the marriage? If not,
or a bank account.
Or bank accounts. Like it's really important, because you never know. Figure out how much debt you are in. Do you have any personal debt? Because personal debts may not be a part of the matrimonial debt. You kind of have to look at what did you guys sign for together versus what you took on yourself. So based on what you have coming in, you know, do you get an allowance? Do you have a full-time job that you're getting an income from? But really, the two incomes between what you earn and what your spouse earns, if they're very different, then we have to figure out a way to equalize.
I think one of the
payments.
key things too is a lot of people have joint credit cards.
Yes.
And so what do you do if you are, you know, you've got joint credit cards and all of a sudden you're getting a divorce?
Well, probably you want to put a limit on it so that neither party can, you know, rack it up, which is why check your own credit report. There's a service out there called Credit Karma, where you can get your credit report for free and see, what does my credit report say about me? And what you were saying before, if you're getting an allowance from your spouse or you're working, start working towards putting cash away. Do a budget, figure out what your expenses are a month, what you have left over, and start socking money away. I've had clients who, women in particular, who have come to me and said that they are divorcing and they want to start putting money away for that, just in case potentially maybe the partners are angry with each other and bills aren't being paid and they might need money to continue to cover the bill payments, or to pay for the expenses that a lawyer, a family lawyer might ask to pay for up front. They're just thinking ahead and thinking about what they are going to have to anticipate spending money on and making sure they have money for that.
You know, one of the key things that you just said was they become angry. And typically when people get angry, there's revenge. And then you become stubborn, and then you want to prove a point. But the only thing you're doing is actually spending away your fortune, because it's going towards the lawyers. And, you know, rather than getting angry, you should look at it as a business. And so if you're getting a divorce, this is you running a business.
Unfortunately, it's very true. And that's, again, where the therapist might come in. And just having a trusted circle of people around you that you can have these kinds of rational conversations with. But that's likely why, you know, it's recommended that you have this cooling off period before you make those decisions. And hopefully you can run decisions by trusted advisors, your lawyer, your therapist, your accountant, your financial planner, so that they can actually come back to what makes sense. Not what feels good always, but what makes sense.
Well, sometimes what feels good always isn't the right thing, right? I mean, we all want to feel good, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing for us. I was talking to somebody who is going through a divorce, and it is one of the best things that she has ever done right now, only because you don't have the mental drama at home anymore. You don't have that crazy debt anymore, and there's this sense of freedom. And now she's got her own place, and she can make her own decisions. And sometimes that's all you need.
It's beautiful when you are actually ready to take on that journey of, I'm ready to move forward into my new life as a single person, and you actually are embracing that.
Yep.
And that's a great place to be. Sometimes people's emotions go all over the place where they fear that and then they anticipate that at certain times. The most important thing to give you, I think, peace of mind is getting your finances straight so that you can confidently go into, working towards getting my own place, how I want to live. You just want to work through all of those numbers. In my new place where I'm going to live, how much is it going to cost me? When I leave that marriage, am I going to get enough money to put a down payment? I mean, mortgage rates have just changed, mortgage rules have just changed. Will I be able to qualify on my own, which is where that credit report comes in? How much will I be left with in terms of actual assets? But also, am I going to get an ongoing payment from a pension at some point in the future that when I stop working, there's going to be enough coming in because I took quite a bit of time off during the marriage to take care of the family? There's a lot of questions to sit down with your financial advisor, with your lawyer, just to make sure your interests, because women tend to give away the farm.
Yeah, it's very
in a divorce
true.
because they don't want confrontation, they don't want their kids to hate them. There's many reasons that we could all go into at the moment, but we end up giving away the farm, and the truth is we can't afford to give away the farm. People depend on us for our livelihood, our children, our communities, our parents. Everybody tends to depend on us, and the truth is women are the biggest recipient of guaranteed income supplements over the age of 65. So we're not retiring after divorce, we're not retiring into wealth, we're often retiring into poverty.
We'll be right back after this break to talk more about the finance of divorce here on Finance is Personal. Hi, welcome back to Finance is Personal. I'm Liz Naumovski, and we've been discussing women's financial empowerment, or in simple terms, the finance of divorce, with Jackie Porter, who's a financial planner and co-author of Single by Choice or Chance. And so, Jackie, you and I were discussing the fact, I read this article, and it was about this woman who lived part of the 1%. She flew everywhere first class. Her husband was some big banker in the United States, and she really didn't have anything to worry about until he told her that he wanted to divorce her. And one of the key things that she wanted to do was still stay in that 5,000 square foot home, and she wanted to keep the same lifestyle that she had. But clearly she couldn't, because she didn't have him to support her in the same way. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of women do, is they want to keep the house and they want to have the same lifestyle even though life has changed.
Well, my question to this friend of yours is, how has her life changed? What type of income is she receiving now as a divorcee versus what she was receiving before while she was living in the home? Obviously, I don't know if she worked, but it doesn't sound like she
I think
did.
it was an article that I read,
and
she said that she was a journalist, but she had put her her career on hold because she was traveling so much for him. But I don't think it matters whether you're the 1% or not. There's so many women who struggle because they want to keep the home because of all the memories.
Yeah, 100%. Again, home is where the heart is for a lot of people, and again, it's your identity that you're losing. So when this journalist was talking about keeping all the things that she had before, a part of it was retaining the identity that she had before. And it's not always possible to retain the identity, because ultimately, if you can't afford it, it's going to put you in debt. It's going to make it so that you're going to have less available to you in retirement. And as we were talking about before, women live longer.
Yes.
And unfortunately, many of us are not living well. When you consider the fact that more women are living in poverty after a divorce, especially with children. You know, the truth is we definitely have to negotiate for all that we deserve and not be so quick, because you were asking me before what's the biggest mistake that women make.
Right.
We settle too quickly with, you know, just because we want to avoid the confrontation. We settle too hastily. We make a decision on taking an amount just based on just wanting to get it over with. And truly, we really want to do the math, because we will likely need the money. We are more likely to outlive our money because we live longer.
So let's talk about insurance, because insurance is being used for divorce now as well, for payments.
100%, and I'll tell a quick story.
Sure.
I had a
It doesn't
client.
have to be quick.
Yeah, okay. I had a client who, her and her husband had separated, and she had to get enforcement of the child support payments through the Family Responsibility Office. And I don't know how many of your viewers are familiar with the family responsibility, but if your spouse fails to pay child support or spousal support, you can take them to FRO, the Family Responsibility. So when you settle, you can actually have that judgment registered with FRO, and they will enforce on your behalf. So she had to keep going through FRO to get the money taken directly out of his paycheck. She had also known that he had a life insurance policy on him, and so she didn't fight for that in court. So she was surprised to find out that he died, and died without paying those payments, simply because of revenge, right? And so she had told me on one of our meetings when we started working together that she had never been able to get money out of him during the marriage. It was one of the reasons they did not make it, is because she could never count on him on paying for paying for things, and you know, they struggled and argued about money a lot. And so here it is that he died without making his life insurance payment. She also finds out at that same time that there is a lottery winning. She's a part of a lottery winning at work. She got $10,000. He was older than she was, so a lot of his family had been passed on, and his other family lived out of country. And so here he is dead, no finances, and she had to use the $10,000 she got in a settlement. Not only did she not get any more support payments, but she had to use that money to bury him. So she said, even in the end, he gets my money.
Yeah, but at least it's final now.
It's final, but the support payments for the divorce should have gone on for at least for the time period that her son was still dependent on her. And so the fact that she no longer had FRO, because she no longer had money to continue to receive that payment that she really needed to give her son what he deserved out of his life.
So we have a few minutes left, and I think it's important to talk about, so someone's supposed to give you support payments and you're not getting them. Someone's supposed to give you and you're not getting them.
That's the Family Responsibility Office.
But how can somebody protect themselves? How can women protect themselves with an emergency fund or something, so that in case those funds don't come through, they actually have their own little nest egg, so that it's not going to hurt them that much? Like, what can women do to protect themselves and have something to protect themselves in case they don't start getting the money?
Well, it's really starting to save. If you're anticipating you're about to go through that process, because divorce doesn't happen overnight, it's a process, you should start saving, putting some money aside, building up an emergency fund. And if that includes, you know, you're getting an allowance from your partner, or you're earning income, putting aside, starting to look more closely at your finances, where your money is going, looking at where you can cut things, and putting some of that money aside in case there's a shortfall, in case all of a sudden your spouse decides they're not going to pay while you're still living in the house, and he might have moved out. He's not going to pay the mortgage payment, or he's not going to pay some of the other bills, that you have some money to pay for those things, along with paying for all the payments that might have to come up during the course of the divorce, for your lawyer, for all of the other professionals, that you have a reserve. And I'd, you know, typically recommend have a few, you know, at least $3,000 to $5,000 minimum put aside. But look at what you can put aside every month. Really look closely at where your money is going as you go through this process, and then put away as much as you can.
You know what?
This is the time to tighten your bootstraps.
And it's easy this day and age to start putting money away monthly. Do a monthly pack, which is a pre-authorized checking account. So the money actually comes out of your bank account $100 a month, $50 a month, because it accumulates and it'll accumulate quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, put away as much as you can. Like, if you need someone to do a budget with, you can, employ a financial planner to help you to do that, or sit down with a friend. If you're not yet at that stage, sit down with a friend and write down all of your expenses and look at how much is coming in, and have someone, have an honest conversation about what you can put away, because you're going to need every penny.
The word divorce is synonymous with the end, but after the emotional toll subsides, that's when people truly realize what it means to start over. This is the most important negotiation of your life. And the key to dealing with financial and legal issues is to think clearly and strategically. At first, divorce can seem like a complicated and scary process that costs more than it's worth. But if you remain impartial, create a realistic budget, and negotiate with mediation, you and your former partner can get out of it relatively unscathed. Treat your divorce as a business agreement. Your success will be living well afterwards. And I'd like to thank Jackie Porter for joining me, and you, our viewers, for watching. I'm Liz Naumovski. Bye for now.